Bed defenses are things that many Hypixel Bedwars players like to put around their beds as a defense. Even the best Bedwars players know to do this. You know, like a kind of bed defense thing. These defenses come in many shapes and sizes, some expensive, some cheap, some wet, some dry, some big, some small, some short, some tall, but all of them are bad. But which is least bad? In this video, we'll attempt to answer this question. But first, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and as always, I am GioSDA. Bed defenses, as stated previously, are very important and very often can lead you to either winning or losing a game of Bed Wars. But which bed defense is the best one? This best bed defense should take many things into account, such as cost, time to get it, time to break it, and size. This hypothetical best bed defense should work in any game against anyone with any tools, while also being affordable and allowing you to rush others. Obviously, a bed defense like this is almost impossible to ask for without trade-offs, however, we can try. Before we discuss the bed defenses, we're going to need to learn about the blocks in order to learn what I'm talking about when I say that a bed defense has wood and wool. Blocks are those things that you need to make a bed defense. You might have heard of them. No bed defense is complete without blocks, so let's go through a quick list of blocks and a brief bullet point overview of them. Oh, and before you ask, I'm not counting water as a block and I refuse to do so. On screen will be a list of attributes about the block, such as time it takes to mine as well as how well it deals with explosives. Wool is cheap, you can buy 16 blocks for 4 iron, and it's popular for bridging. Wood is common in defenses, you can buy 16 blocks for 4 gold, and it's useful against people without an axe. Terracotta is a good alternative to wood. You can buy 12 blocks for 16 iron, and it's useful against people without a pickaxe. Endstone is common in defenses. You can buy 12 blocks for 24 iron, and useful against people with a low-level pickaxe. Bulletproof glass is only really useful against explosives. You can buy 4 blocks for 12 iron, and it's rare to see in most defenses. Obsidian is uncommon in bed defenses. You can buy 4 blocks for 4 emeralds. It's useful against almost anyone, especially paired with a trap, and it's highly toxic. Ladders are mostly unused in bed defenses. You can buy 16 blocks for 4 iron, and it's almost useless except for one special case we'll get to later. Sponge is very helpful in a bed defense. You can buy 4 sponge for 3 gold, and it disappears shortly after you place it. Now that we're done with that overview, it begs the question, what is the best bed defense? Well, there are 5 defenses that we'll be looking at today, each varying greatly in size, blocks, and whatnot. Feel free to use these defenses in a game suited to your playstyle, as they all vary in utility based on your game mode or how you personally like to play the game. Let's get to the first bed defense, and quite possibly the one you see most often. Now, I actually lied when I said this was a bed defense, as this is actually a collection of multiple different bed defenses. These bed defenses are commonly referred to as 30 defenses due to the fact that they were popularized by popular YouTuber 30virus, and also because that's how many different names there are for this defense. The gist of these bed defenses is to use them in solos and duos games where you need to rush early in order to get the jump on your enemy. Use wood and slow iron games, and terracotta and fast iron games. These bed defenses ensure that your enemy always has to break 2 blocks in order to get your bed, and at least one of them must be the block of your choice. Although the wood defense is slightly better due to the fact that wood takes longer to break with fists, and also because axes are slower than pickaxes in almost all cases. These defenses have been argued about a lot on the forums, given that they're a very popular bed defense and they're seen in almost every single game of solos or duos. However, I believe that they still deserve to be in this video. Although these bed defenses aren't as good for 3s or 4s, it can certainly be used to an extent. However, the defense that I believe is greatest for 3s and 4s will come later. Obsidian defense. This one doesn't have an official name, so I'll just call it the Obsidian defense. The gist of this one should be obvious if you know what context clues are, which is to have a first layer consisting of obsidian and a second layer made of whatever you desire, usually wool. The reason that wool is used is to make your enemy assume that you have something else, such as endstone or wood, so you can surprise them with your obsidian and possibly win the game. Although this bed defense takes a while to get and can leave your bed wide open in the early game, once late game hits, this is one of the best bed defenses to have due to how long it takes to break and how unexpected it is in most circumstances. Normally, people will set up another bed defense, such as a layer of wool or the 30 defense, and then go back and replace it with obsidian later once they get to the middle. Although I don't usually use this bed defense, and I hate anyone who does, it's definitely a very good defense depending on what mode you're playing and what your personal game style is. Butterfly defense. Although I can't find any sources for when this defense was invented or who it was invented by, it's probably the most used defense in the world for 4s and 3s despite its cost. It's also the golden standard bed defense in ranked Bed Wars, and any other bed defense could possibly get you striked. Its main advantage is that it's impossible to TNT without breaking the glass, which makes it much more viable against better teams, as they have to drop and use a pickaxe and shears in order to break it. The bed defense costs a total of 76 iron, add another 8 iron if you want a third layer of wool, as many people do. It's very expensive for a first bed defense, however it's recommended in almost all 3s and 4s strategy of any nature due to the fact that it can be used relatively quickly and can also be expanded upon with wool or wood. This is the bed defense that me and my team almost always use in 3s or 4s, and I recommend that you probably should too. Wool defense. This defense is probably the most popular defense in all of Bedwars. I lied when I said it was the 30 defense. No, seriously. Go into a game and see how many people you see using the wool defense. I'd say at least half of the game is using it. Really, there's no reason not to. It's a good defense that can shield your bed against anyone without shears for at least half a second, which could be enough time to ensure that you don't lose your bed. Another aspect of this bed defense is that it's very quick to place down. After all, you only need 8 wool blocks for it, which you can obtain in probably the first 5 seconds of a game. Despite its popularity, this bed defense probably isn't very good late game, but if you intend to finish games quickly or just don't care about your bed, you're better off slapping down a wool defense as opposed to just leaving your bed exposed. This bed defense is also easily expanded, as you can place down a second layer of wool to make it even harder for enemies to break your bed. 460's Belt Defense. This is a bed defense that's mostly unheard of, probably due to the fact that it was discovered very recently, and the most recent iteration was created as recently as April of 2021, which is this month as I'm writing this script. Oh wow, it's been like 2 months. The point of this bed defense is that it's meant to be a bed defense for ranked bedwars that's impossible to block into, however it works in 3s or 4s as well. This bed defense does amazingly against almost anything you can throw at it. TNT is negated by the blast-proof glass, tools are negated by the fact that it's near impossible to block into. It's not very cheap, however, requiring you to buy endstone, wool, glass, wood, and ladders. Remember when I said ladders would come into play later? This is where they do. There's almost no way to block into this bed defense, and even if you could, it takes a moment, giving the enemy time to kill you as long as they're aware of the fact that you're there. The only real drawback to this defense is that the ladders allow the enemy to jump from nearly any height and live, giving you a positional disadvantage, as well as the fact that it's very expensive and probably won't be set up until late game. After going over those 4 bed defenses, you may be wondering what each bed defense is good at and when to use one over the other. Here are my personal recommendations. For solos and doubles, I like to use either the wool defense or the 30 defense as my first bed defense to make sure that people aren't able to break my bed as quickly as they'd be able to otherwise, as I think it's a good alternative to buying TNT to rush with. I recommend only getting the obsidian defense if the team you're going against already has obsidian, or if you take out your first rush before anyone else. In any other case, it's probably a bad idea and will either give you a disadvantage later in the game or get you rushed more quickly. I recommend using the butterfly defense if you're playing with a squad in 3s or 4s, or if you're playing ranked bedwars. It's the best bed defense for those game modes in almost every case, spare for the belt defense, which is much more time-consuming and costly. I can't really recommend when to use the 460 belt defense, however it's highly recommended if you play until the late stages of the 3s or 4s game and you have enough resources to use it, especially if you're playing against a good team who's able to block in, as this can provide a counter to their playstyle, which could win you the game. I don't really recommend using the wool bed defense, however, as with all other bed defenses, it depends a lot on your playstyle, which my playstyle doesn't really have room for the wool defense because I'm very defensive of that bed. Overall, each bed defense is good in their own special way, and each have been tried and tested countless times. If there are any bed defenses you think I missed, or if there are any defenses you think shouldn't have been added, leave them in the comments below, and I might respond with some input of my own. If you've watched to the end, please subscribe, as this video took me a long time to make and a lot of research and editing to put together. Even just one subscription would mean the world to me as a small content creator, and as always, I'm GioSDA. Have a good one.